Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. Proverbs 3, 5 and 6. So who's familiar with these verses? Most of you. All right. So who knows the verses that follow? I'll read it out. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. So it's these later two verses I'm going to focus on. If you think of these four verses as a meal, verses 5 and 6 are like the entree. But verses 7 and 8, they're the main course. So, like an entree, verses 5 and 6, so that's the ones we're familiar with, are a good, tasty morsel. And a great place to start. But verses 7 and 8 are the thing that fills you up. So I'll read the four verses again. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. These are written by King Solomon, who's arguably one of the wisest people of all time. Now, he didn't just wake up one morning and think, I know, school this idea down. No, he actually spent a lifetime seeking God's wisdom and trying to figure out what's the meaning and purpose of life. And as I'll explain in a minute, it was these two verses that essentially were his summary of his lifetime's worth of discovery. So I reckon it's worth figuring out what they're all about. So let's look at the first phrase in verse 7. Do not be wise in your own eyes. So what does he mean by this? Maybe he's suggesting we only do stupid things. Now that could be good, because some days I do that really well. Like deciding to do a sermon in front of a video. Anyway, obviously being stupid's not it. So God gave each of us a brain for a reason, so what else could it mean? But let's go back to where it all began. Genesis chapter 2. Verse 16 and 17, God says to Adam and Eve, you are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For when you eat from it, you will certainly die. And what happens in the very next chapter? When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate it. So our original sin came from our desire to have our own wisdom rather than relying on the wisdom of God. To decide for ourselves what is right or wrong, rather than trusting God to know what's best for us. Or our desire to be autonomous rather than dependent on God. Our society teaches us to take control of our destiny. Autonomy is put forward as the key to success. So to quote Tony Robbins, success is doing what you want to do, when you want, where you want, with whom you want, as much as you want. The problem is, while the world promises autonomy as the key to life, ultimately it leads to death. Just look at the UK at the moment with Brexit, great example, or the US with its trade wars, or thinking more personally, the last time you had a fight with someone close to you. I dare say it's been a result of someone deciding for themselves what's best for them. It might feel good for a while, but only God has the wisdom that leads to life. So to be wise in our own eyes is to think that we know best, or that we don't need God, or we can't trust God to have our best interest at heart. And these are all clearly wrong, we know that. The truth is we don't know best, we need God, and we can trust him because God is love. And the next part of the verse is, fear the Lord and shun evil. Now why does Solomon say this rather than ask God and he'll show you the way? That's what I do all the time. I get in trouble and turn to God to help me out of it. But what's wrong with asking God for help? Well, nothing. But if that's all that you're basing a relationship on, it's not a very healthy relationship. The problem is that it usually means we want to be in control, and we're treating God like a Santa Claus or a Magic 8 Ball. And if you recall, it was our wanting to be in control that messed things up in the first place. So what does it mean to fear the Lord? Now, I don't think it means we need to be scared of him, because the scriptures from beginning to end are filled with reminders that God is love. The ultimate expression, of course, is in Jesus, Son of God, who willingly died to fix the mess we created. So we can now come into the presence of God and call him Father. However, God is the creator of you, me, and everything we know. He is a holy God. He's all-knowing, all-powerful. eternal. It is an incredible privilege to be called children of God. So to fear God is to realise that we are in the presence of one who is far above us in every way. If we went to Buckingham Palace, we wouldn't just walk up to the Queen and say, "Hey Lizzie, how you doing? I've got a whole bunch of things I want to ask from you." No. So with God, I mean, how much more reverence is he deserving of? There's an old hymn, "Boldly I approach the throne." So we can, but let's not forget, only possible through the death and resurrection of Jesus. And as we approach the throne, let's not forget who it is that we approach. Now, it's fairly self-explanatory what it means to shun evil, so I won't dwell on that. But the big question is why? Why is fearing the Lord and shunning evil the solution? Now, as I mentioned before, Solomon didn't just make this up. We get to read about his journey of discovery in Ecclesiastes. And he pursued a whole range of things. He tried to pursue wisdom and succeeded, and pleasure and hard work and business success and wealth and power. And his conclusion from each one was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. And at the end of Ecclesiastes, he wrote the following, chapter 12, verse 13. "Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of mankind." We get so caught up chasing after the things of this world, possessions, power, pleasure, but these things don't satisfy. To fear God is an attitude of the heart. To shun evil is to focus on how we live, not on what we do. To put it another way, what we do is not as important as how we do it. Where we go is not as important as how we got there, and what we have is not as important as who we are. I'll say it again. What we do is not as important as how we do it. Where we go is not as important as how we got there. And what we have is not as important as who we are. So the call in our lives is not what we achieve, but on living in humility and holiness. Humility before God as our Creator, Saviour and Lord. And holiness in our hearts and in our lives. This is what it is to fear the Lord and shun evil. So that brings us to verse 8. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. So a few years ago, I was extremely time poor. I had young kids, I had a really high pressure job, and the work just kept mounting up with work, and as well as that I was doing a bunch of church stuff. But I wanted to make sure I had time to pray. So I'd get up a little bit extra in the morning and walk sort of a long way to the station. And they were great times to just worship and just calling on God for help. But one morning I didn't leave enough time, or else I'd have to run to get the train. And so as I was about to go, I had this sort of voice, sort of idea in my head of God saying, "Don't run, just walk and spend some time with me." And I'm like, well, if I use my wisdom says it's just one morning. If I miss that train, that's a half-hour wait. We can negotiate. But I thought, I'm not going to trust my wisdom. I'm going to trust God in this. So I walked and I had a time of worship and it was great. Got to the station and I thought, well, I'm going to have a half-hour wait now. And just as I got to the station, the train arrived. It was late as well. Mm. I thought, how cool was that? Yeah. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe it wasn't. So I thought, I'm going to dare to do that again. And I did it again and again and again. Dozens of times that year. God came through. It was so good. And every time, so you arrive at the station and the train rocks up as you get there. And you go, thank you, God. I had an extra spring in my step that day. Because I knew that I had a God that was on my side. Being able to trust God and not my own wisdom. Sometimes we get to experience that thing that Jesus talks about, where he says, my food is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. He says that after talking to the Samaritan woman. I don't know if you recall the story. Now, I'm not saying it's all easy. Obedience does come at a cost. To To walk in obedience to our Creator as His forgiven and loved children is what we were made for. It's then that we find ourselves fully satisfied. So, to summarise, to not be wise in our own eyes. We can never know enough, be clever enough, or be holy enough. We were made to live in dependence on God. Let's not allow pride to get in the way. Fear the Lord and shun evil. God is all-knowing, all-powerful, and holy. He is our Maker, and we were made to worship Him with our lives. No more, no less. Trust Him to take care of the rest. And this will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. When we trust God daily and learn to say, not my will, but your will be done, we get to enjoy the main course. So my challenge for each of us this week is in some very tangible way. You're going to get lots of challenges tonight with 9 talks. But anyway, choose mine. Focused on how you go about your everyday things rather than what you will do. Deliberately choose God's way over the logical way. Now, it could be as simple as being late for something so you can spend some time with God or so you can love someone. But whatever it is, handing over to control to God. It might fly in the face of what our instinct tells us to do. Trusting Him can be difficult, but it's worth it.